Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to today's session. My name is Bríd Duffy. I'm Play Participation Officer on the Bright Start team in PlayBoard, and you're very welcome today. Today's session, don't worry, be happy, how to help our children overcome anxiety. This presentation is in response to the present COVID-19 pandemic, the resulting lockdown, isolation, and the effect this will be having on our children and young people. I want to talk to you about the stress and anxieties our children and young people experience generally, but especially the added and very real anxieties our children are experiencing at this time. What this can look like and their behaviours, and most importantly, how we can support our children in coping and overcoming these anxieties. So why are we here today? We're here to learn about what causes stress in our children and young people, including ACEs in the present COVID-19 pandemic crisis. What stress and anxiety looks like, what are the signs, and ways in which we can help our children to manage and overcome anxiety. Also, how and why play is the key. There are lots of different kinds of anxieties. Some children will feel very anxious about something in particular. Some children feel a bit anxious all the time. Some children feel anxious about being away from their parents or meeting new people. And some children feel anxious that bad things will happen to the people they love. Some children think they need to check or organise things because they think something bad will happen. Everyone feels worried sometimes. Let's explore some of the causes of stress, fears, irrational and rational fears. An irrational fear is a persistent, abnormal, and irrational fear of a specific thing or situation that compels one to avoid it, despite the awareness and reassurance that it is not dangerous, like spiders or heights. Irrational fear is a fear of something that presents clear and present danger for a child. It could be a problem at school. Some examples of irrational fears would be fear of spiders, the dark, being left at home alone, fear of animals, fires, high places, thunderstorms, criminals, kidnappers, a terrorist attack, other people, ghosts, ghouls, monsters, fear of death of a close family member. Children have worries, and some worry more than others. It's a perfectly normal part of development. And many children have specific fears that cause the brain to go into panic overload. Transitions, crowds, separation from parents, getting lost, being left behind or home alone. Other fears include problems at school, a scary movie or book that they've watched or read, their overpacked schedules, making and sustaining relationships, conflict at home, school, with friends, peers, societal, manage perceived expectations from their parents, from teachers, from sports coaches, the self-inflicted pressure, a terrible news event, illness, death of a close family member, separation anxiety, problems at school, and major life changes or ACEs. As their worlds expand, children become aware of new real-life stresses and experiences. It makes sense that their fears become larger as they experience things like fire drills or talk about personal safety on a regular basis. And with the COVID-19 crisis, which is an additional stress, we find ourselves having to educate children on the very real dangers of not washing your hands properly or often enough, the requirements of social distancing, and with the lockdown they cannot play with friends, visit close family, and are also coping with isolation. We also need to be aware that the children who find societal situations, school and separating from their parents difficult, may be coping relatively well with lockdown because they do not need to face the situations they find challenging. However, exposure to feared situations is a critical component of overcoming anxiety and fear. And this extended period without any exposure may lead to increased fears in these children and make the transition from lockdown very challenging. Adverse childhood experiences, ACEs as we know them. Adverse childhood experiences are stressful experiences during childhood that directly harm a child or affect the environment in which they live. These include domestic violence, parental abandonment through separation or divorce, a parent with a mental health condition, being the victim of abuse, verbal, physical, sexual, and or emotional, being the victim of neglect, physical and emotional, a member of the household being in prison, trauma related to and inherited from the Troubles, growing up in a household in which there are adults experiencing alcohol and drug use problems. A very daunting and comprehensive list of reasons why children and young people experience stress and anxiety. Going back to the COVID-19 pandemic, between the 21st of January 2020 and the 8th of April 2020, Childline delivered over 2,200 counselling sessions to children and young people who expressed concerns about coronavirus. Around 1,600 of these counselling sessions were delivered during March, when key events such as school closures and social distancing measures were announced. Further causes of stress relating to the present COVID-19 pandemic. Young people say that being in constant close proximity with other members of their household has created difficult and stressful environments which often result in more arguments. Other family issues that are affecting some young people's well-being include witnessing arguments between parents about financial pressures and job loss, parents who are divorced or separated arguing about visiting rights and where a young person should be staying, young people having parents in the middle of separating and being concerned that the pandemic will delay the process, making family life under the same roof unbearable. Young people feeling distressed because they can no longer seek refuge and emotional support by going to see close relatives such as grandparents. Worries about relatives contracting the virus, particularly grandparents, or more vulnerable family members. Other children's main concerns are mental health. In most of these counselling sessions where the coronavirus was mentioned, children also talk about their mental and emotional health. Young people talk about struggling with increased feelings of depression and anxiety, having panic attacks more frequently, having nightmares or finding it difficult to fall asleep, feeling lonely or isolated. Children find words really tough to use, and we've heard the saying, kids get over it, they're resilient. But sadly, experiencing trauma changes the brain of a child, and this can lead to changes in thoughts, behaviours, relationships, ability to learn or focus, and emotional responses. Children will be unlikely to use words to describe these changes. Words can be difficult to use when someone is traumatized, and that is because the part of the brain that is responsible for speech and language goes offline when we experience high levels of stress. That's why we often reply, "I'm fine, thanks," when people ask us how we are, because it can be hard to find words or even reflect on how we are. Instead of using words, children will usually respond to high levels of stress and anxiety in their behaviours and emotions. Children and young people soak up what's around them, even if it's non-verbal, such as atmosphere of intense anxiety or fear in the home. And this can be hard for us as adults to think about, as this can often make us feel bad about not being perfect. However, it's important to understand how children and young people become traumatized so that we can work with them to see them recover and have a future that is not impacted by the things they've seen, heard, and experienced. So that we can recognize it, let's have a wee look at what this stress can look like. In the younger child, toilet accidents. Older kids may begin to lie, bully, or defy authority. A child can display surprisingly fearful reactions. Some of them may appear tired, spend a lot of time alone, withdrawn from activities that used to be fun. Development of a nervous habit such as nail biting, thumb sucking, or hair twirling. Maybe some overreactions to minor problems. The child who routinely expresses worries. You might see some short-term behavioural changes such as moodiness, a short temper, or clinginess. Or complaining more than usual about schoolwork. difficulty concentrating. And we see drastic changes in academic performance. For some children, it can be in their diet. They either eat too much or too little. Changes in behaviour or temperament are common flags that may indicate that a child in the home or the after school may be experiencing stress and anxious feelings. And we need to understand that feeling sick may be caused by stress. Stress can also appear in physical symptoms, such as stomach aches and headaches. If a child makes complaints of frequent stomach aches or headaches when they have been given a clean bill of health by their doctor, or if these complaints increase in certain situations, example, maybe before a big test, we need to understand this child may be experiencing significant stress. Worry brain, happy brain. The worry brain panics and causes anxiety. The happy brain focuses on things that make a child feel calm and happy. A worried mind is a very loud mind. It practically screams out for help the minute the lights go down or an unexpected trigger hits. Go ahead and panic, it whisper yells over and over again. The body responds in an instant with anxiety symptoms such as shortness of breath, rapid heartbeat, muscle tension, stomach pain, and dizziness. And that's just for adults. Can you imagine how our children feel when panic sets in? How do we help our children in turning a worry brain into a happy brain? Well, one way is self-talk. Self-talk helps children talk their way through stressful and fear-inducing situations. When children talk back to their worries, they feel some control over the situation and can remain calm enough to find a solution to the problem. Because children are often not familiar with the word stress and its meaning, they may express feelings of distress through other words such as worried, confused, annoyed, and angry. Children may also express feelings of stress by saying negative things about themselves, others, or the world around them. Nobody likes me, I'm stupid, nothing's fun, I hate this, I hate that. I'm sure you've all heard this from a child. And it's important that we as carers listen to these words and statements and try to figure out why this child is saying them and whether they seem to indicate a source of stress. Also realise that some things that aren't a big deal to us as adults can cause significant stress for kids. We need to let these children know that we understand. And we need to understand the stress in ourselves, understanding that our feelings and emotions have an effect on everything we do in our lives. Understand that everyone has worries. Understand that emotional health can affect our ability to learn and be happy, and recognise feelings and how they impact on our physical health. Understand that help and support is available when needed. Playing helps children stay physically and mentally well. It's an everyday part of a healthy and happy childhood. Play is just as important during a crisis like the current coronavirus pandemic. It helps children to manage their emotions and maintain a sense that everything is and can be okay. How to help kids with stress in the moment. Notice out loud. Listen. Comment briefly on the feeling you think the child was experiencing. Like, I know you're angry, I know you're frightened, I know you're frustrated. Put a label on it. Help the child think of things to do. Let's go and play a game of football. Why don't we go and paint something? Let's go and play with a Play-Doh. Listen and move on. And just be there and be patient. We had a look at the happy brain and the worry brain earlier. So there's another coping mechanism. We can teach kids about the difference between the happy brain and the worry brain. The happy brain focuses on things that make a child feel calm and happy on an everyday basis. The CEO of the brain remains calm and in control when the happy brain takes the lead. Worry is there in case the fight or flight response is needed, but fears are at a minimum when the happy brain is in charge. The worry brain is a different story. The worry brain hits the panic button when a trigger arises, causing those terrible anxiety symptoms mentioned before. The worry brain makes decisions based on fear and causes children to feel scared, sad, and alone. When the worry brain takes over, the CEO of the brain shrinks and the worry center expands. But kids can talk back to their worry brains. And that can help them cope with stressful situations. They can say things like, "No worry, brain, I won't get lost. I can ask for help. Monsters aren't real." When your child can identify her fear triggers, she can learn to talk back to her worry brain so that she can make a choice to help her through the acute stress reaction. Drawing and play are two great ways to help a child identify her worries. Some kids can go from calm to panic in a matter of seconds. They forget to talk back because they're too busy trying to catch their breath. So we need to teach them how to breathe. You might want to practice blowing up some balloons first to help them understand the art of deep breathing. Learning and practicing mindfulness with the kids is another good strategy. The happy brain focuses on things that make a child feel calm and happy on an everyday basis. And what makes a child feel calm and happy more than play? Resilience. Resilience is the ability to thrive, adapt, and cope despite tough and stressful times. Resilience is not innate, but it is a skill that can be taught, learned, and practiced. Everyone has the ability to become resilient when surrounded by the right environment, opportunities, and people. Play builds resilience. Why is play important for children's mental health? To begin with, play helps children stay emotionally healthy, stay physically healthy, relax and forget about worries, make sense of new experiences and changes in the world, and cope with feelings that are difficult and frightening. Why is it even more important now? Lots of people think that play is what children do when they have nothing better to do. In fact, play often is the better thing to do. Play is important at any time, but it's particularly important during this coronavirus pandemic. Why? Because play is natural and therapeutic. It allows children to safely work through how they feel about things, especially emotions such as anxiety, loss, fear, and loss of routine, and to develop their resilience. Find out about things, to learn about how the world works, and make some sense of what is happening at the minute. Of course, the school stuff is important, but children learn and process things so much through play. Develop friendships, to practice the skills they need to build and maintain friendships, and most importantly, have fun. Adults and children alike, we all need a bit of fun. Playing is a natural, active process that can help. Being at home for long periods of time and being physically separated from friends, family, routines, and cherished places is a new situation for most of us. Children need to have the opportunity for all types of play, including playing with other children. Without this opportunity, children can feel lonely and isolated. Play is a great way to support the health, happiness, and development of our children during the current crisis, and support them in finding ways they can play at home now and new ways in the after schools when we return, practicing social distancing, etc. Making time to play and have fun together is good for our relationships and for our own mental health and well-being. Playing outside as much as possible and with the additional therapy that nature provides. The sounds, smells, textures, and colours of nature are especially therapeutic. Playing can also protect children from some of the negative impacts crises can have. Play is a natural and active process that can help. Playing is a natural, active process that can help. Aspirational. Every child should wake up each morning feeling nurtured, safe, happy, and excited. It's never been more important that we as practitioners, parents, grandparents, and carers are proactive in supporting our children and young people's mental health. But remember, we can't solve every problem as kids go through life, but by teaching healthy coping strategies and providing good quality child-led play activities, you will help prepare these kids to manage the present and future stresses. To play is to live, is to play. Thanks to you all for viewing. We hope you found the content useful. And to further support you on what has been discussed today, we've placed some recommended links, publications, reading and viewing on the next slide for your information. I'll leave this with you. Many thanks again. Stay safe and don't worry, be happy.